Alright, so early 1900s, all this lynching is going on in the South. There were a lot of white liberals in the progressive era, this is in the midst of it, that were trying to improve this. And at this point, about 1909, it was about, it was about as low as it got in terms of race relations. It was still low the last 20 years, but anyways, 1909, the NAACP was founded. NAACP stands for National Association for the Advancement of Colored Peoples. And from that point on, the last 101 years, it's been working to get civil rights enacted and all that. So, okay, so that was 1909. In response to lynching. 1918. A representative from, I believe he was, if I thought about it hard enough, I could remember where he was from. But it was a representative in the House, of course, that proposed a new law, an anti-lynching law. Unfortunately, they were so racist at that time that they couldn't even think, hey, let's make a law that stops people from lynching each other. Wow. You know what? That sounds pretty smart. Like I said, what's the word? They rejected it. 1922, conservative Southerners, who at that time Democrats, kind of switched around over the century. They filibustered it, which means they pretty much stalled for so long that they just gave up. It was passed in the House, but it wasn't passed in the Senate. That's what happens in the Senate when you have a filibuster. And if they do it long enough, they'll just say, you know what, I don't care, let's move on to something else. And they did. That's how racist they were. They couldn't even think about that basic... it's such basic morality. I don't know why they would... Whatever. Okay. So yeah. The decades went on, and I was surprised. 1909, that sounded pretty early. I always had a feeling that the NAACP was founded in the 60s, which was a very active decade. So that was like 50 years. Between 50 years of them just struggling through all this racism going on in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, such that by the 1960s, finally some legislation, finally some change, and okay, that's closer to today. Anyways, yeah. Third question. Things happened in the 60s, and suddenly in the 70s you had desegregation, like, ingrained in society. Disco came about, of course. So, it progressed and progressed until 2008, first black president. That's awesome. And NAACP went crazy this. Yeah! That's awesome. First black president, yes. So, yeah, it's today. It's a huge stepping stone. And they're super pumped about it. They were more pumped in 2008, of course. It's kind of like, oh yeah, now that's just history. That's the last decade, so. But there's still a lot of problems they're dealing with, obviously, but they're a very influential organization, so they're working on it. And you donate to them, and they directly take care of, reparations and educational programs and, all this stuff about anti-racism and, going to the military and getting all that segregation worked out, even though, as far as I know, the military is pretty unsegregated. Anyways, there's still problems, obviously, and we gotta work on the more conceptual things like prejudice and, it's a lot less than it used to be. Obviously now we have huge numbers of people who are rich, and whatnot. The NAACP has contributed to this and has been a central player, obviously. Otherwise you wouldn't hear of them everywhere. And yes, we do still have civil rights lawyers and whatnot, because there are still issues, and there's still, you know, consciously racist people out there. And the NAACP, along with so many other organizations, are committed to keeping those civil rights prosecutors, you know, going, lawyering. So yeah. Okay, camera's still going. Nice. I'm not touching myself. So yeah, that's the NAACP, and that is how you pronounce it, in case you don't know. That's NAACP. So what you say is NAACP, like Kanye West. One song, I forgot what it was. That's all I remember. So, okay. That's today, that's yesterday, and yesterday even further. In the future, looks good.